So, Rolling Stone released a scathing expose about Diddy called Bad Boy for Life. Let's read some of these brand new allegations. Poor old Diddy, y'all. I mean, I almost started feeling bad for the man yesterday whenever I saw that yet again more people from his alleged inner circle are speaking out against him and his behaviors that he's exhibited over the past several decades since he's been in the music and entertainment industry. Then I thought about it and I was like, no, I don't feel bad for him actually. So let's discuss this most recent Rolling Stone article. A lot of y'all have asked me since my video yesterday, because I did say like I wasn't really going to even bother reading those brand new lawsuits with the two new accusers, because not only is it similar allegations to the ones we've heard already, but there have been many people making videos on those lawsuits, but y'all are asking, begging, pleading for me to make videos on those lawsuits, so I will do so. But even without getting into anything that they said in those lawsuits, there was this Rolling Stone article. I mean, I'm going to call it an expose because I'm not even done reading it yet. I read probably, I would say 30% of it. And I was like, I just should do this on a video so that I can react to it in real time. So let me pull that up. So as you can see, it was posted, it says 1 day ago. I think it was actually right now it's 7:40 in the morning on Thursday. I think this might've been posted on Tuesday. So really technically maybe 2 days ago. But as you can see, it is called Bad Boy for Life, Sean Combs' History of Violence. And then there's like Reddit posts about it. Look, Bad Boy for Life, a 6-month investigation into Diddy. So they've been doing this investigation for 6 months, apparently. Rolling Stone exposes Diddy after 6-month investigation. What is this? Right. Okay. So this is okay. All right. So this is the article. I have it in the reader view just so that nothing unexpected pops up. But I thought we could just read this article together. And maybe I'll provide a little bit of commentary or fill in the blanks as we go. Who knows? Let's see. So out here in the wild, it's called Bad Boy for Life, Sean Combs' History of Violence. But then when you click on the reader view of the article, that's not the title. I don't know why they would have did that. But it says Diddy's ex-friends, bad boy artists, detail alleged abuse, violence, as he took the stage at the BET Awards in June 2022 to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award. Sean Diddy Combs was elated. Yeah. He bellowed.
Yeah.
Punctuating his words with triumphant jumps. If I can find a clip of that, I'll put it in here. The adoring crowd, who gave him a sustained standing ovation, included his mother and children, longtime friends, and music industry peers Kanye West, Janelle Monáe, Babyface, and Lil Wayne. After 3 decades of relentless hustling that took him from hungry teenage intern to A&R executive, producer, label impresario, respected fashion designer, and household brand name, Diddy had seemingly reached the apotheosis of his career. Girl, I don't know if I said that word right. I don't know what apotheosis is. Let me look it up. Apotheosis. The highest point in the development of something, culmination or climax. I think that was the apotheosis. I think like 2023 was the highest point in the development of Diddy's career, because it would have been the end of 2023 where that highest point, he got a little Prometheosis, if you know what I mean, too close to the sun. Only some of y'all will get that. Okay. So he had seemingly reached the highest point in his career. He closed his eyes and repeatedly thanked God.
First of all, I want to thank God. God, thank you so much, never leaving my side, always being by my side, keeping me in my purpose, keeping me in my work, keeping me godly, lifting me up off the ground, always being by my side. Anything I do is through God. Anything I do is through love. That's what I evolved to be. And that's what I'm doing right now. You feel me? So I want to thank God, because if it wasn't for God, I would have went crazy, y'all. You feel me? If it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be here. You feel me?
He got down on one knee and praised his mother.
But today is not about me. Today is about my mother. Ma, I love you. This is your day.
He name-checked a laundry list of people who'd mentored and inspired him. Anything I do is through love, Combs proclaimed early in a 9-minute speech. That's what I evolved to be, and that's what I'm doing right now. Yeah, well, what you're doing right now is changing the definition of the word love, because I know snatching somebody up by the ponytail and kicking them in the spleen and everything else is not love. No, it's not. So don't, y'all can miss me with that. I feel like they need to change the word love because of this man. It says, but soon, Combs struck a more somber tone. He says, quote, I was in a dark place for a few years, he said. Should I do my Diddy impression? Let me see. I'm still working on the Diddy impression, but I think it's something like, and I got to give a special thank you to the people that was really there for me.
I was in a dark place for a few years, you know what I'm saying? And I have to give a special thank you, shout out, thank you, all that love. I got to give a special thank you to the people that was really like there for me.
That's my current Diddy iteration. It's the current iteration of the Diddy impression. So he says special thank you to the people that were really there for him. He listed friends and advisors, and then looking directly into the camera, he added the following quote, Cassie, for holding me down in the dark times. Love, love.
Yeah, and also Cassie for holding me down in the dark times. Love.
He raised one hand to make an L sign. Basically, I mean, I don't know what generation y'all grew up in, but I was born in 1990, and this means loser. Anytime someone's holding a we used to do that as an insult. This don't mean love. And again, he's just changing definitions. So he looked straight into the camera and thanked Cassie. At that time, he was not dating Cassie in 2022. I think they broke up in 2019. So I don't know what he was holding the L up, saying he's a loser, she's a loser, supposed to be for love. I really don't know. The article goes on to say, Diddy and Cassie, and she's a former singer for the Bad Boy record label, had split 4 years earlier. But he had been openly pining for her ever since. So he's kind of like, I don't know, it could be considered harassment in my opinion. Like, just let it go, dude. He posted photos of her online and urged her to listen to Michael Jackson's The Lady in My Life. He publicly congratulated her on her first pregnancy with her husband. His comments at the awards show were part of a pattern of behavior, one that had been tormenting Cassie for years. When she learned of Diddy's latest remark, sources say, she was distressed. She was also resolute. Almost 18 months later, in November 2023, Cassie sued Diddy, claiming he held her in a violent form of servitude throughout their relationship and R-worded her upon their final breakup in 2018. She invoked Diddy's BET speech in her court filing. So in her court filing, she even brought up this speech that they're talking about up here. And then they quote from her court filing. For Miss Ventura, the quote, dark times were those she spent trapped by Diddy in a cycle of abuse, violence, and bleep-ficking. Cassie said that Diddy's brutal beatings, one of them captured in a harrowing hotel surveillance video obtained by CNN in May, left her with bruises, busted lips, black eyes, and extensive trauma. I don't like to say burst lips. That's stupid. The lip didn't burst, it's busted. Y'all need to say it right. Rolling Stone. Actually, they're just quoting. They're just quoting from the lawsuit. Okay, and then they got a picture of her. For Grammy-winning songwriter Tiffany Red, a friend of Cassie's who worked closely with Cassie during the height of the alleged abuse. So according to Tiffany Red, who is Cassie's friend, Diddy's words from that BET speech on stage, that was actually a taunt. Tiffany Red said, it's like harassment. You're still effing with her. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. I would have to agree. Just leave her alone. I totally agree. That was the first thing I thought too. Just leave her alone. Let it go. But he can't. He can't. It was some of the darkest times of my life.
For holding me down in the dark times. Love.
In the 5 years after her breakup with Diddy, Cassie remained silent. While he was posting about her pregnancy in 2019, she was, quote, negotiating in distress behind the scenes to escape her bad boy contract, Tiffany Red disclosed. It says despite Cassie signing a 10-album deal in 2006, Bad Boy only released one album by her. Diddy was allegedly trying to tie her separation agreement to a non-disparagement clause. And this is something we saw coming up recently in another aspect of the entertainment industry with the quiet on set stuff. Some of the child actors, one in particular, Jeanette McCurdy, she said that Nickelodeon tried to give her like a $300,000 parting gift, but as part of the parting gift, she had to agree never to disparage or talk about like being on the show and stuff.
Jeanette McCurdy isn't holding back. The former iCarly star is speaking out about her time at Nickelodeon in her new memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died. In an excerpt, the 30-year-old claims that she was allegedly pressured to drink underage, and the network allegedly offered her $300,000 as, quote, hush money.
So this is saying Cassie was trying to get out of this deal because she signed a 10-album deal like basically almost 20 years ago at this point. But Bad Boy, Diddy's record company only put out one record in the 20 years, like 18 years. And in order to get out of it, Diddy was allegedly, according to Tiffany Red, trying to tie that getting out of the contract with signing a non-disparagement agreement for Cassie. There's a quote here from Tiffany Red. It says, "It's not like we were negotiating with just her record label. We were negotiating with her abuser." Through her lawyer, Cassie declined to speak for this article. Diddy did not respond to a request for comment on this specific allegation. At some point, Cassie checked herself into rehab to deal with the, quote, physical and psychological repercussions of her time with Diddy. And she found a renewed purpose in being a mom, her lawsuit says. When she eventually gathered her strength and stepped forward, a flurry of other lawsuits followed. 5 more women have since accused Diddy of R-word or violent SA dating as far back as 1990. So 33 years ago, or 34, I guess now. 2 of these alleged victims claim that Diddy secretly recorded their S encounters and showed the footage to others without their consent. Music producer Lil Rod also sued, alleging Diddy groped his private parts and forced him to solicit certain workers and perform certain acts to the pleasure of Diddy. While Diddy would eventually take responsibility for the assault captured on surveillance video, he has otherwise denied all other allegations against him. The day Cassie filed her complaint, he blasted it as a shakedown based on outrageous lies. But now here we go, fast forward to a few months later, and with the darkest times of my life.
So difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life.
You gotta address him.
Sometimes you gotta do that.
He's truly sorry.
I'm truly sorry.
Truly. Well, was he sorry for lying about this? Is he sorry for calling her a liar, but really he was the liar? For the past 6 months, Mr. Combs has been subjected to Miss Ventura's persistent demand of $30 million under the threat of writing a damaging book about their relationship, which was unequivocally rejected as a blatant blackmail, says Diddy's lying-ass lawyer, Ben Brafman. In response, Cassie's lawyer, Douglas Widger, said Diddy, quote, offered Cassie 8 figures to silence her and prevent the filing of this lawsuit. 8 figures. What's that? 8 figures is $10 million minimum. So I'm going to say probably somewhere between $10 and $29 million is what Cassie was demanding. They're calling it outrageous lies, but then Cassie's lawyer is like, okay, well then why did he offer at least $10 million? Okay, and then, of course, as we know, the parties came to an undisclosed settlement within 24 hours of Cassie's filing. When his 4th R accuser sued in December, so within basically a month or 2, 4 people sued him. When his 4th accuser sued in December, Diddy, who was 54 at the time, issued another passionate denial. Enough is enough. For the last couple of weeks, I have sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation and legacy. Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth. Well, he was lying, though.
I'm truly sorry.
So embarrassing. Ooh. For many, the lurid allegations against Combs were jarring, in part because he had risen to such great heights as a bankable bon vivant. What's a bon vivant? Bon vivant. I like that word. That's pretty. Okay. A person who enjoys a sociable and luxurious lifestyle. So when these allegations came out, this article is saying, the allegations were jarring to people. He threw the best parties from New York City to the Hamptons to Hollywood. He's the pop culture stalwart who walked under a parasol held by his campy valet, Farnsworth Bentley, in Saint-Tropez and turned up at a Met Gala in a Swarovski crystal-encrusted tuxedo and floor-length cape. He rapped about Bentleys and Benjamins and held court at his over-the-top annual white parties, attended by Leonardo DiCaprio, Beyonce, Mariah Carey, and Martha Stewart. He called himself the Great Gatsby and considered circus showman P.T. Barnum his muse. Well, y'all, you already know what I'm about to say. All roads, say it with me, leads to clowns. Now we're going to the circus for his muse. Okay, all right, got it. Now, the spotlight Diddy constantly chased is trained on his alleged crimes. In staggering scenes that underscored his fall from grace, heavily armed Homeland Security agents stormed his sprawling Los Angeles and Miami estates as part of a federal ST investigation on March 25th. Investigators tore through his offices and bedrooms, leaving cables dangling from a command center and multiple safes wide open. 3 gleaming Grammys and an Oscar sat atop a gutted console like relics of a crumbling regime. Sure did. A crestfallen Combs was later seen alone, cell phone hanging useless in his hand as he slowly paced around Miami-Apalaca Airport. Y'all always make fun of how I say that. I don't know how it's said. Sorry. I don't live over there. His vacation in the Bahamas was canceled. His once fortified homes breached. His adult sons handcuffed. And his empire on the brink. And those adult sons were Christian, the one that looks just like him, and what's the other one? Justin, the one who was alleged to have had his friend there at the studio, and then there was a Second Amendment incident, and then nobody ever saw that guy again. He went to the hospital all shot up, and then nobody ever saw him again. G. Anyway, the 2 sons, they were handcuffed. But Quincy, I had previously reported inaccurately that Quincy was handcuffed, but that's not true. I just want to keep reiterating, Quincy did not get handcuffed that day to my knowledge. It was Justin and Christian. While the raids made global headlines, the silence from Combs' famous friends was palpable. This felt different than before, when he could use a checkbook, a high-powered attorney, and a media blitz to overcome scrapes with the law. When his charisma, influence, and connections would allow him to shake off allegations of violence or outcry from his disenfranchised artists. Quote, reparations is getting closer and closer, former Bad Boy artist Mace said a day after the raids. Quote, the big payback. So Mace had already started, reparations is getting closer on the day after the raids. Over the past 6 months, Rolling Stone conducted dozens of interviews with Diddy's former friends, acquaintances, employees, and Bad Boy artists, as well as industry insiders. They reached out to over 300 people, and more than 50 were willing to talk to them about their experiences with Diddy. Several would do so only off the record, citing fear of retribution. Some requested compensation in exchange for their stories, but Rolling Stone allegedly does not pay for interviews. Many declined to participate, wanting to distance themselves from Diddy. I'm trying to leave that part of my life behind me, says one former employee. Those who did speak about Combs describe a complicated man with opposing personas. Outwardly, they see a tastemaker who is unapologetically driven, generous, jovial, and even silly at times. He can be the same privately, but associates who got close enough to him discovered something darker behind the facade. A menacing figure who desperately wanted to be accepted and admired. A man who used public declarations of devotion, splashy donations, and boasts that he is brother love to hide the undercurrent of alleged abuse and violence that, in one previously unreported allegation, traces back to before his career even started. Combs wielded his growing power to bend people to his will, sources claim, sending staffers to win back one-time girlfriend Jennifer Lopez, beating a label executive bloody after he became romantically involved with Combs' ex-girlfriend Kim Porter, and allegedly, he even tried to solicit relations from a woman on his payroll. As part of this investigation, Rolling Stone sent Diddy a detailed list of questions about the new and pending allegations. He did not specifically address any of them. Quote, Mr. Combs cannot comment on settled litigation. He will not comment on pending litigation and cannot address every allegation picked up by the press from any source, no matter how unreliable. His lawyer, Jonathan Davis, tells Rolling Stone. The lawyer goes on to say, we are aware that the proper authorities are conducting a thorough investigation and therefore have confidence any important issues will be addressed in the proper forum where the rules distinguish facts from fiction. So basically, the lawyers are basically saying, keep it out of the news, girl. We're going to court and, they know how to act over there, I'm sure. Joy Dickerson Neal, who is suing Combs for SA, tells Rolling Stone that her decision to come forward wasn't about money. It was about making sure the world saw the man who rose to the level of an icon is actually sick and has left so many victims in the wake of his unpunished, disgusting behavior for years. And then this is the day before the 2007 VMAs where Britney was sabotaged. This is Cassie's 21st birthday. For Cassie, Diddy presented as her flashy, established 37-year-old label boss when he pulled her into a bathroom and forcibly kissed her on her 21st birthday in 2007, leaving her in tears, according to her legal complaint. She says he was holding the keys to her music career, and when he pressured her to consume substances and have relations that same year, Diddy became deeply entrenched in every aspect of Cassie's life, paying for her apartment, medical records were sent directly to him, and lashing out at her for perceived slights, her lawsuit says. When Cassie tried to move on and had a brief romantic relationship with musician Kid Cudi in 2011, Combs allegedly beat her. Diddy told Cassie he planned to blow up the rapper's car in his driveway, the lawsuit claims. And in a statement to the New York Times in November, Kid Cudi confirmed that his car did explode. Quote, "This is all true," he said. In her lawsuit, Cassie says she learned to blindly submit to Diddy to avoid vicious beatings. Eventually, her lawsuit claims the abuse extended to ST, and Combs ordered her to slather herself in oil, get inebriated, and have with male S workers while Combs took care of himself and filmed the interactions. And then Diddy, of course, as we know, called these freak offs. Cassie learned to dissociate during these horrific encounters. The public did get a disturbing window into Diddy's treatment of Cassie in the surveillance video unearthed by CNN. In it, a towel-clad Diddy is seen pursuing a barefoot and fleeing Cassie after he had allegedly punched her in the face during an FO in an LA hotel in 2016. At an elevator bank, Diddy throws Ventura to the floor, kicks her, stomps on her, and attempts to drag her back to the room before grabbing what appears to be a vase off a table and hurling it in her direction. Cassie describes the incident in her lawsuit and alleges that Diddy paid the hotel $50,000 to obtain the footage. And we have talked about this lawsuit many times on this channel. Quote, "After years in silence and darkness, I am finally ready to tell my story and to speak up on behalf of myself and for the benefit of other women who face violence in their relationships." Cassie said in a statement accompanying her lawsuit, "This is an opportunity to speak up about the trauma I have experienced and that I will be recovering from for the rest of my life." As Cassie's damning allegations were on the verge of going public, Diddy was strategizing, according to Lil Rod Jones, who produced multiple songs on Diddy's 2023 Grammy-nominated album, the Love album Off the Grid. I mean, the man is off the grid. He's off the hinges, if you know what I mean. And then they go ahead and quote Lil Rod's lawsuit, and they say, "Diddy detailed how he planned to leverage his relationship with celebrity pastor Bishop T.D. Jakes to soften the impact on his public image." Jakes did not reply to a request for comment. Publicly, Diddy seemingly jumped into overdrive, producing positive press. So now Rolling Stone is saying, well, whenever Cassie was gearing up to sue Diddy, he was going on a press run to get positive press. And these are some of the things he did. He fulfilled his $1 million promises to his alma mater, Howard University, and the football program at another historically Black college, Jackson State University. He launched Empower Global, an e-commerce platform for Black entrepreneurs. In dropping his new album, he proclaimed it was his love era, and he announced that he was giving his bad boy artists and songwriters their publishing rights back. Only some artists say they were offered their rights back, but Danity Kane's Aubrey O'Day said she refused because her offer came with a mandatory non-disclosure agreement. So Diddy basically publicly, he's like, "Oh, I'm giving all my artists their rights back." But really what he was actually doing was, sure, trading those rights for signing mandatory non-disclosure agreements, at least according to Aubrey O'Day. A year before Cassie's breakup with Diddy, she had conceptualized a short film called Cassie that appears telling in hindsight. In a voiceover speaking about the film's fictionalized romance, she says, quote, "How do you just walk away from it and escape it? I just want to be free."
What's your life? What do you want to do?
I just want to be free and be able to roam and go to any city, any place, at any time.
But how do you just walk away from it and escape it? You can't just walk away from something that
Now, that hotel security footage prompted horrified reactions around the world. Forced to acknowledge his actions, Diddy made a rare admission of guilt, but tailored it only to that incident. I was effed up. I hit rock bottom. I take responsibility for the actions, quote, in that video. I'm disgusted. He claims he went to therapy and rehab and he was truly sorry. Cassie's lawyers, though, they weren't buying it. They say it just showed his pathetic desperation. Many who watched the footage of the assault were stunned, even those who'd known Diddy for years. LaJoyce Brookshire, the former publicity director for Arista and Bad Boy, says that she was disturbed to learn that these types of actions would have occurred, and that Puffy could stand in her face the next day with a straight face. She said, that shakes me to my core. Several women who attended Howard University with Diddy, though, they had seen signs of a controlling and abusive personality decades ago. He started at the esteemed college in the fall of 1987 and quickly earned a reputation for throwing legendary rowdy parties. Flamboyant and boisterous, he was often seen driving his convertible around campus and passing out flyers. Though he did leave after his sophomore year, Diddy turned Howard into a pipeline for his enterprises, teaming up with future label execs and producers Harvey Pierre, Mark Pitts, and Derek D. Angeletti, all key figures in Bad Boy's early success. Shantae Page, a former A&R executive for Universal Motown Record Group, was among those who say that she actually had positive experience with Diddy at Howard, calling his iconic parties a once-in-a-lifetime type of vibe. He was a go-getter from the start, Shantae says, always in the know. But other women described previously unreported incidents involving unwanted touching and fits of rage. One woman says she kept, quote, as far away as possible after Diddy caressed her back without warning and asked if she would be willing to meet one of his friends. Oh, so that behavior was already going on all the way back then, allegedly. Another former student recalled that Diddy flew off the handle after she objected to him cutting in the cafeteria line. While the moments may seem small, they showed flashes of danger that would soon explode. A third former student recalls how the future mogul would tap on the window. Okay, this part is crazy. Listen to this sociopathy, if true. It says a third former student recalls how Diddy would tap on the window of an English class to get a girlfriend to ditch class. The visits became noticeably unwelcome. And this is what the classmate says. She said, the girlfriend, Diddy's girlfriend at college, she would tense up when Diddy appeared. The student who sat next to the woman in the class recalls, quote, he just had this weird control thing. I felt like she was fearful. The classmate says her concerns were validated when Diddy appeared outside of the school's Harriet Tubman quadrangle dorm and started screaming in a belligerent manner for his girlfriend to come outside. Okay, so Diddy was like trolling around on campus, and he would go to his girlfriend's class and knock on the window and get her to come out of the class. And then he would just stand there until she would leave, and she would like start to get like, tensed up like when he would come to do that. And one day he showed up outside of their dorm and he was screaming for her to come down.
Savage! Oh!
So she was probably hiding from him. The classmate says other women soon began running through the halls, knocking on doors in a panic. They were sounding the alarm that Diddy, known then by his nickname Puff, was attacking the young woman outside. He's out here acting crazy. He's beating her, the fellow students said, according to this classmate. He screamed and hollered and acted a stone fool until she came downstairs.
I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get!
Another Howard student who witnessed the attack tells Rolling Stone. So there have at least two different people who were students at Howard University at the time Diddy was there. And two of them say that they saw him attacking his girlfriend outside of the dorm one day. She says Diddy used what appeared to be a belt to strike this young woman all over the place. She would only speak on the condition of anonymity because it was a sensitive issue. But the witness says that Diddy appeared, quote, super angry and was screaming at the top of his lungs. She says he really whooped her butt, like really whooped her butt. The witness says the woman was clearly terrorized. She was trying to defend herself a little bit. She was crying, and we were telling him, get off of her. We were screaming for her. A third source, so there are three sources now, had allegedly witnessed this incident. So this third source that allegedly saw it also recalled the alleged assault to Rolling Stone. The woman at the center of the alleged attack declined to comment. So the actual ex-girlfriend, she did not comment, but there was other people from the school that saw it and did confirm that happened. Diddy was born with a short fuse. Telling Jet magazine he earned his nickname as a kid because he would always huff and puff when he got mad. I had a temper. That's why my friends started calling me Puffy. His mom, Janice, a former kindergarten teacher, described him as a ham. Diddy barely knew his father, Melvin. And Melvin was allegedly a FBI informant, girl.
Do you think Diddy would chase some people down with him if he get arrested?
Oh, my man. Come on. His daddy was a rat, but I'm going to tell his story. It was this gangster. He said, when you go there, father and his son. And the guy said, his son is only a baby, 4 years old. He said, his father was a rat, and he gonna grow up to be a rat too. It ain't no way that he gonna go down and not take nobody with him. His father was murdered because he ratted out his team that he was working for. So you think he not gonna rat? Like father, like son, brother. That's what I believe. New York Freddie. Omar took me to a meeting because New York Freddie wanted to talk to me. He said, yo, I've been trying to get in touch with Russell Simmons, and I've been trying to get in tough touch with Puff, because I wanted to tell him the true story about his father. You understand? I said, yeah. And now this is New York Freddie, one of the biggest gangsters in Harlem. Puff's father used to work for his team. He was brought in by one of his best friends. So he's telling me the story how Russell Simmons used to work for him. And if you look up New York Freddie Myers, you can see when he was picked up with a whole lot of, he had stacks of money in his house in the basement in Mount Vernon. So he said to me, he said, yo, we had cops on the payroll. One of the cops brought information. He had the paperwork and he had Puff father take confession. He gave him $10,000 extra for it. Puff father told on their operation. New York Freddie told the guy who brought Puff father into his crew, you got to handle it. I want it handled. So now the dude handled the situation. Puff father was driving the cab. He met him on Central Park West and did what he did. And so I said to New York Freddie, I said, yeah? He said, and the guy who killed him was carrying the casket, crying the hardest at the funeral. I was like, oh.
He was a handsome substance dealer working for a Harlem kingpin, and he was unalived in 1972 at the age of 33 when Diddy was just a toddler. Throughout the years, Diddy mourned the loss of a father figure, but Melvin, his bio dad, had a profound influence on Diddy nonetheless. Quote, even if we don't know our parents, we still have their DNA in us. We have their genes. Hint, hint. Diddy said, I have his hustler's mentality, his hustler's spirit, his drive, his determination, his swag. Diddy doesn't have any swag, so I wouldn't be bragging about it.
He said his father was a rat, and he gonna grow up to be a rat too.
When Diddy's mom moved the family from Harlem to the suburb of Mount Vernon, 12 miles north, Diddy straddled disparate worlds. In one, he was a defensive back on the football team at his all-boys Catholic high school. In the other, he rode a train to the city, immersing himself in its burgeoning hip-hop scene. And then they have a quote from his mom from 1993, where his mom said, I didn't know exactly what he would do, but he was blasting me out of the house with his mixing kit I bought him when he was 13, making that noise, scratching those records. After a taste of celebrity at Howard University, Diddy itched for more. He was hell-bent on breaking into the music industry, simultaneously attending college and working a part-time internship at Uptown Records back in New York City. It was actually an Uptown artist, Heavy D, a neighbor in Mount Vernon, who brokered the job interview. After Combs, Diddy repeatedly badgered Heavy D at their local pizza spot, and this was a story that came from former Uptown A&R VP Kurt Woodley. For the job, it says, Diddy commuted from Howard University, evading the train fare by hiding from the conductor in the bathroom. He dropped out of school to work at Uptown full-time, eventually becoming Andre Harrell's mentee, and Andre Harrell was the CEO of Uptown. Combs' ascent at Uptown is by now part of his lore. He helped newcomers, Mary J. Blige and Jodeci, go multi-platinum after reshaping their images. He reinvented the remix and ushered hip-hop soul into the cultural lexicon. He threw exclusive Daddy's House parties at the since-shuttered Manhattan hip-hop club Red Zone that even his older Uptown colleagues jockeyed to attend. He had the ability to convince people that whatever he was doing or wherever he was, that was the hot bleep. And that comes from Dan Charnas, author of The Big Paycheck, The History of the Business of Hip Hop.
Over the course of 4 years, I interviewed more than 300 people, record executives, entrepreneurs, artists, managers, producers, DJs, journalists, and it's because of these people that we know the names of artists like Jay-Z, Eminem, Lil Wayne, Tupac, Biggie. Some of these people did it for the love of the culture. Some of these people did it for the love of money. What these people actually accomplished was not just the transformation of music, but the transformation of American society as a whole. Ultimately, I think, resulting in the election of America's first black president.
Okay, she's pandering to black people.
Okay. Is it working? Is it working? Is it working?
This guy goes on to say, Diddy understood more than anyone how the innovations of hip hop, specifically sampling and using classic rap records as a basis for R&B songs, would be really powerful for a generation. As Diddy's star was rising at Uptown, his predatory instincts resurfaced, according to the SA lawsuit filed by Joy Dickerson-Neal last November. Dickerson-Neal acted opposite Combs in a 1990 music video and received what she considered a warning from Bronx rapper Sister Soulja to keep her distance, giving his infamous reputation. So this is a little picture right here of Joy Dickerson-Neal in the video with Diddy. She says she reluctantly agreed to a dinner date with Diddy in 1991 while she was a college student paying for her studies with a restaurant job. She was wary of being alone with him, so she requested they dine where she worked. She alleges that Diddy spiked her drink when she went to the bathroom and later pressured her into taking a hit of a type of cigarette. She says her legs went rubbery a short time later and Diddy R-worded her at a nearby residence. She also claims that Diddy filmed the attack and showed the video to others like a trophy. Combs denied the allegations at the time. This is Combs' denial. 32-year-old story is made up, not credible, never assaulted her. They call the allegations false, offensive, and salacious. Mike Nice Lewis, who worked with Joy Dickerson-Neal at the short-lived PMD Records, tells Rolling Stone that actually Joy Dickerson-Neal did confide in him at the time in the 90s at the office about the alleged SA. Diddy and Bad Boy came up in a conversation, and this guy says that Joy Dickerson-Neal, her whole demeanor abruptly changed. And this guy claims that Dickerson-Neal told him she had a, quote, very bad experience with Combs, keeping her head down as she talked. And then he goes on to say, I believe her. I just knew from what she was telling me it still affected her even 2 years later. Dickerson-Neal's attorney also spoke. Okay, good to know. So Joy Dickerson-Neal's attorney, Michelle Kiola, I don't know how to say that. She's also representing this newer accuser, Crystal McKinney, who sued Diddy, I think, last week. This lawyer says, okay, but the amount of irreparable harm to my clients' mental health and professional lives that was done by Diddy cannot be overstated. Within hours of Joy Dickerson-Neal filing her complaint, another woman sued Diddy for R-word. Lisa Gardner claims she was 16 in 1990 when she and a friend met Diddy and Uptown singer-songwriter Aaron Hall at an MCA Records event in Manhattan. Now, this accuser, Gardner, alleges the men were very flirtatious and handsy, feeding the girls drinks and inviting them to Hall's residence for an after party. She alleges Combs offered her more alcohol at Hall's home in New Jersey and forced her into relations despite her protests. She was still shocked and traumatized, and she was trying to get dressed. But Hall had allegedly barged into the room, pinned her down, and R-worded her too. She claims an irate Diddy later showed up where she was staying and began choking her until she almost passed out. Diddy was doing that because he was afraid that the women would tell his girlfriend what he and Hall had done. Diddy's legal team also denied Gardner's allegations, calling them a money grab. But another woman who says she was with Gardner that night corroborated many details of the Gardner lawsuit in a sworn affidavit. The woman, who is the younger sister of a friend. So this woman basically, she said, okay, Diddy might have denied those allegations, but I was whatever I want, I have to get. She was 15 years old at the time, and she said she actually was there that night. She walked in on an incident, 15 years old, walked into a room and saw a man watching whatever Puffy was doing to Lisa. Then the woman writes that she woke up the next morning at a different location where an upset Gardner said Combs had showed up and choked her. Back in the Uptown office, Diddy's inflated ego, outsized opinions, and Machiavellian scheming were becoming a problem for his peers. He went from internally divisive to openly controversial in December 1991 when he and Heavy D helped organize a celebrity charity basketball game at the City College of New York, and that left 9 people dead.
City College was a deep experience for me. I was there, I was on the floor, I watched people take their last breath, regurgitate, and die.
Okay, you said a female?
Yes, a female.
Of asthma?
Yes, she had an asthma attack?
Uh-huh.
She passed out unconscious. They can't revive her.
We were there at the doorway pulling people in, trying to get them It was bananas. I pulled friends through the door. I gave mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to people. That was just bananas to me.
When we got down to the bottom, we just pulled him out, and that's when I think Tuffy came around. But I just walked off for a minute, and then I came back. It was just all them people. A few times I thought I was gonna pass out because it was hot on that staircase. You know what I'm saying? And when they closed the doors, I knew something was going down.
I am going to do a video on this charity basketball game because it keeps coming up over and over. But yeah, so Diddy had like organized this charity basketball game and people died. It was basically a Travis Scott incident. And another Lou Taylor connection there is that Lou Taylor clients, people die at their concerts from getting smushed and trampeded to death. I mean, who knew? I just made up that word, trampeded. It's like a trampled in a stampede.
Over to Houston now, where fire officials have confirmed at least 8 people have died and several were injured at Travis Scott's Astroworld Festival. Authorities say about 24 people were rushed to Houston hospitals and at least 11 of them were in cardiac arrest when they were transported. According to police, crowds began to rush toward the stage around 9:15 last night and people passed out because they couldn't breathe. One Harris County judge said some of the victims transported were as young as 10 years old. Houston police are working to identify the victims who died and locate people who are still missing.
Diddy shirked responsibility, claiming he tried to enlist help from the NYPD and he had personally administered CPR to several people. But an incident report ordered then by the mayor faulted him for allowing inexperienced underlings to handle the event planning and found that the reckless overpromotion had drawn too many people without tickets to the event.
Well, then in 1991, there was the Heavy D and Puff Daddy celebrity basketball game.
City College tragedy.
You were doing security that night.
Yes, I was.
That day, actually.
Yeah.
From what I understand, the event itself was oversold. There was all these kids who bought $20 tickets, and some of them were having trouble getting in, even the ones who had tickets. And then at one point, Mike Tyson shows up, LL Cool J shows up, and everyone starts going crazy and is trying to get into the building.
What happened was that Puff first hired 18 of my guys to do the job. Then I hired some correction officers and a few cops also. Puff calls me the day before we supposed to do the party and say, yo, Gene, I don't need y'all to do the security outside. I got the FOIs to do it. I said, man, I just told 18 guys. He said, I just need 8. I said, 8? So Slick said, don't worry about it, Gene. We just go there with the 8 guys. People was already crowded out there and it was crazy. I finagled my way in there. I told Puff right then and there, I say, Puff, if they don't do a boxing one outside and get these kids off the door, somebody gonna die tonight. He said, Gene, don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. You just handle the stars once they come inside. So I said, yeah, all right then.
With the city investigating possible criminal charges, lawsuits were mounting, and his rivals were pushing Harrell to cut Diddy loose, the Uptown executive did urge Combs to lay low. A terrified Diddy spent months holed up in a Manhattan hotel with his mom, according to Kirk Burrows, Bad Boy's co-founding partner and president. Now look at this part right here. I got to do a whole video on this. Burrows was the co-founding partner and president of Bad Boy Records, but he was fired from Bad Boy in 1997, and it says in 2003 he sued Diddy for allegedly threatening him with a baseball bat and coercing him into signing over his stake in the company.
What went wrong between you and Puffy? Because if I'm not mistaken, he made you give up your ownership in Bad Boy, right? And they had you in the room and they had bats and they made you give over your percentage?
We were renegotiating Bad Boy. We had gotten over CCNY. It looked like the coast was clear. We were renegotiating with Arista. We were about to get a step up in the money. I had 25% of the company. I didn't know why he needed to get that back from me and then give it back to me again. I didn't understand that. I didn't want to give it up. So he came into my office one day unexpected, him and Kenny Marsalis, they had it planned out. Kenny had the briefcase with all the stock certificates in it, and Diddy had the bat. Not like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you with the bat, but he had the bat like, man, we got to do this. This has to happen. I didn't feel I was gonna get beat down in that office. In all honesty, I wasn't threatened by him. What I was messed up over was the fact that I started this company with you from day zero, and now the one solid thing that you told me I had, you want to take that back and do a return to me on that at this critical time that we're renegotiating and getting a step up on the contract. He got the stock back. I went on, tried to get over that, kept doing my job, doing what I had to do, delivering everything. And once again, I was caught up in the job. I forgot all about it. And next thing you know, we had the snafu. I was fired. And he just said, oh, okay, bye. And since he had never given me the stock back, he never said that he would pay me anything or give me anything. He just avoided me all these years. Not only did he avoid me all these years, running high and low.
His claims were dismissed as beyond the statute of limitations. So one of the guys who co-founded Bad Boy, Diddy forced him at threat with a baseball bat. Allegedly, this is what he alleges. Forced him to hand over and sign over his shares of the company, but then he just waited too long to sue. So the lawsuit did get dismissed, but only because of statute of limitations. It didn't get dismissed on the merits. You know what I mean? After that controversy subsided and Combs returned to Uptown, he still considered himself Harrell's heir apparent. So he still thought he was going to take over Uptown Records. Diddy did. Even after this charity basketball game and all that, even after the deaths, 9 people died and all that, he was laying low, but then he returned. And when he returned, he was still acting entitled like he was about to take over this record company. But unfortunately for him, his access to his mentor, Andre Harrell, was restricted. He spent much of 1992 producing Mary J. Blige's landmark debut, What's the 411? He gained redemption in the album's acclaim. Around this time, he founded his own Uptown imprint, Bad Boy Entertainment, where he could sign his own artists and make extra cash. That Burroughs guy that Diddy apparently allegedly threatened with a baseball bat, he remembers jealous Uptown executives referring to Diddy as Satan. Well, they wouldn't be the last ones to do that. And flipping him off as he walked by his small offices in the Uptown building. As they walked by his small office in the Uptown building.
That's the way we started Bad Boy. I would come over to the Uptown office. We were uniquely situated as Bad Boy Productions to do productions on Uptown artists' productions, and we were paid through Uptown paying Bad Boy to do tracks for like Heavy D, Mary J., things of that sort. So we were very active in that.
You discovered Sean Combs. You made him your A&R man at Uptown. You fired him, which is fascinating because you kept this relationship and you worked with him for many years.
When I fired him, it was like I had an artist in the building. Because Puff, as an executive, he really is a very artistic guy. He can make videos, he could style. So, and Puff wouldn't really listen to anybody but me. So my full-time job became managing Puff. And I was doing other things. So even when I let Puff go, for the whole time he was let go, he was always on payroll. I never stopped paying him until he found his next spot. And the final straw for me was when MCA wanted me to not put out the Biggie Smalls album because they didn't like the subject matter, and they wanted me to tell him he's got to change his tone.
We know about the situation of where Andre Harrell famously said that Puffy was let go because Puffy had quote-unquote too much ambition, that he was superseding his position.
What happened? No, let me tell you exactly what happened. They up in that fucking marketing meeting, and Puffy cussed some motherfucking top Jewish executives the fuck out, okay? The day of his party, they was going to fly them out on the MCA G5. We over there at Glam Slam Prince Club putting up all the decorations, all kind of shit. All of a sudden, they called and said, stop, the party's been canceled. I said, why? Goddamn Puffy went in the motherfucking meeting up there, the corporate meeting up there at MCA earlier this morning, and cussed every motherfucking top executive out. And they told us he has no deal on this label no more. I said, what?
Why did he do that?
What happened? I have no idea. He didn't tell me why he did it after that, but they just said there is no party, he has no deal.
Harrell eventually soured on him too. As Woodley recalls, Harrell said, I'm a fire Puff. He's getting a little too big for himself, and he's bothering people. With pressure mounting, Harrell fired Combs in July 1993. Uptown was supposed to oversee the album release of Diddy's newest signee, Christopher Wallace, and that's Biggie. But Diddy was free to find a new home for his fledgling labels.
And it wasn't up to me to tell a generation what they could and could not do. I didn't want to sit there and be the one confining Puff because the corporation was telling me to do that. I'm not built that way. So I told Puff he needs to go.
So Uptown was supposed to be the Christopher Wallace, aka B.I.G. whatever label, but Diddy had just got way too big for his britches and he was aggravating people. It was more trouble than it was worth. So Andre Harrell still let him go. The termination was devastating for Diddy, leaving the 23-year-old crying buckets of tears outside the office. He loved Andre.
Puff got fired by Andre Harrell. Like I said before, he was on suicide watch. Tell us, this kid about to commit suicide, man. We got to watch him.
Yo, we got to look out for him, man. He talking about committing suicide. And he talking about, doing crazy shit. He don't know how he gonna feed his baby. I think Tim Dog and Eddie F from Heavy D and the Boys was paying his bills or something at the time. You know what I'm saying? That's what a lot of crews back at that time was doing. They was washing their money either in doing the record business or either they were doing it and doing promotion and parties.
He loved Uptown. He didn't understand what Bad Boy was going to be. And Diddy actually commented before on this incident, on this time. This was in an interview like 30 years ago with Rolling Stone. He said, quote, "I cried for a couple days and I felt like I wanted to jump off a building. I think at times I was hard to work with. Possibly I was doing shit that a asshole would do, just abusing the power. But that was only a little bit at a time." Even all the way 30 years ago, y'all, the man said, possibly I was doing that a ass would do, just abusing power. The writing been on the wall. It's been on the wall.
Savage! I'm a savage! Oh!
And then he's like, oh, but that was only sometimes. And that's what abusers do say. I wasn't that bad all the time. Okay. Cast out of Uptown and blamed for a tragedy that claimed 9 lives. Diddy could have faded into obscurity, but he was scrappy and determined, quickly securing a reported $10 million deal from Arista Records' Clive Davis that kept Bad Boy Entertainment alive.
Puff, when he left, he took Craig Mack and Biggie with him. But he didn't have the money for the production. He didn't have the money for put in Big pocket. He didn't have money put in Craig pocket. But these guys, Buck and Elnum, had their money because they had, quote unquote, a limousine company. That's what they said they were doing, but they was actually hustling. And this is true to facts because they got 9 16 to life sentences. And each one of them, they just got pardoned by Obama last year.
What these people actually accomplished was not just the transformation of music, but the transformation of American society as a whole. Ultimately, I think, resulting in the election of America's first black president.
Now he was helming a skeleton crew, eager to turn artists into superstars and cement hip-hop as a mainstream genre. While the world did not always understand the power of hip-hop, I was working in it and watching it unfold, Michelle Joyce, Bad Boy's first director of marketing, says. She says, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that it wasn't if it was gonna pop. It was when. It wasn't easy. Hours were brutal, pay was low, and the workload was intense. The next summer, only 1 year after Diddy's dismissal from Uptown, their work paid off with Craig Mack's ubiquitous Flavor in Your Ear. And the Notorious B.I.G.'s One More Chance. In the next 3 years, Bad Boy would become the premier label for upcoming hip-hop and R&B artists, churning out chart-topping albums from Faith Evans, Total, and 112, and soundtracking clubs and radio stations nationwide. And in Wallace, that's Biggie, Bad Boy had a budding superstar, Biggie Smalls, the storytelling genius with the effortless flow. Still, Diddy was volatile. Burroughs says he once saw Diddy attack a woman inside Bad Boy's office in 1994. He and another ex-employee tell Rolling Stone they had to tear Combs off the woman after hearing screams and the sound of shattering glass. So we now know Diddy is wont to throw a glass vase at a woman. I mean, we saw it. I saw it with my eyes on surveillance cameras. So this is completely believable to me. Now, did it happen? I don't know. I wasn't there. I was 3 years old. Okay. The woman, for her part, declined to discuss this with Rolling Stone. Felicia Newsom, the first manager at Daddy's House, which is the Bad Boy recording studio, she says she once held Diddy back when he was about to beat this girl's ass after a fight broke out between 2 women. I'm holding him by his waist saying, you need to calm down. This is not your fight. And then they have a picture. This is April Lampros. I'm not sure if I'm saying her name right, but she's one of the new accusers as of the last week or two. She's a former Arista intern. She claims Diddy turned violent with her too. In a lawsuit filed in May, she alleges that Diddy attacked her in a parking garage in the mid-90s, forcing her to her knees to perform a certain act. It was one of 4 horrific assaults she says she endured during her on-off relationship with Combs. As Bad Boy was on the rise, staffers kept Diddy's transgressions quiet, whether out of loyalty, fear, or just a belief that these incidents were rare. But outwardly, he was the label's unceasing hype man. Ad-libbing on tracks, making cameos in his artists' videos. It was clear he wanted something bigger for himself. Brookshire says, I distinctly remember the day that Clive Davis called and asked me to start garnering press for Puffy as if he were the artist. Oh, this is interesting. So now where we are in this article, I haven't gotten this far on my own. So this is like true like react. So Brookshire is saying, I remember the day Clive Davis called me and he said, start promoting Puffy like he's an artist. Behind his back, I used to call him my problem child, the notorious VIP. Oh, well, Diddy got all the press he wanted when he and his LA counterpart, Death Row Records boss Marion Suge Knight, became entangled in a years-long heavyweight hip-hop fight.
Like to tell Tupac, keep his guards up, we ride with him. And one other thing I like to say, any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, and won't have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the video, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
The pair had once been friendly. Diddy even modeled Bad Boy after Death Row. He told Rolling Stone that in 1997. But the subsequent rivalry between Biggie and Tupac, which were the two record labels competing basically, this rivalry would turn into a Pyrrhic victory for both labels. Diddy was fond of Tupac, admiring his ability to marry street cred with mainstream appeal. Burroughs notes that the Bad Boy team spent the summer of '93 studying the rapper's buoyant I Get Around as a blueprint for a commercial hip-hop record.
I Get Around. Is it true that y'all used that song as a template?
It was a hit. So why not try to figure out how to get something like that for your artist, because you're about to come and this is what you have to compete up against. We had to figure out how to match or surpass records like that. And that was the best thing about Sean during those days. He was in it, he was about it, and he was thinking about what was next.
Like, what was the conversation like between you and Diddy when y'all first heard I Get Around?
So it was like, he's that dude. And then I Get Around, it's like, that's like a social conscious record that he was able to do.
Desperate to be taken seriously, Diddy tried to foster a friendship, but Tupac was not interested. Yeah, and I wonder what kind of friendship that Diddy was trying to foster with Tupac, knowing what we know from Lil Rod, or what was alleged, I should say, from Lil Rod. So Monique Bunn, who's a 90s hip-hop photographer, she said Pac didn't have any kind of respect for Puff. According to Tupac and even Biggie, Diddy was a corny executive. And he is. He's corny.
And they call me Diddy.
Now, like, I don't know if the programming was a little bit successful on me, or if I never really truly stopped to really pay attention or look at or listen to P. Diddy, Sean P. Diddy, Puff Daddy Combs. He's just always kind of been this ubiquitous like thing that's existing. But now that I've been honing in on him and, like, you know, making thumbnails with his picture on it and reading these articles and seeing these old videos of him and stuff, he is so corny. He is so corny. And honestly, like, literally 90% of these guys from back then were corny. I have a whole theory on it, but girl, this video is about to be 6 hours long, so let me just save it for another day. Instead, Tupac bonded with Biggie, who he actually viewed as his peer, because that's the talent, right? I mean, we can all agree that Diddy has no actual musical talent as far as like rapping or singing or anything like that. I mean, I guess if looking corny like a clown is a talent, he's very talented. But I mean, I think I'm a better rapper than Diddy. So welcome into my world. You're playing my game. Thought that you could come up and they're fitting off of my knee. Talking out the side of your neck like you're insane. Cortisol levels to the roof. Inflame. I could understand why Tupac and Biggie both thought that Diddy was corny and would have been more friendly with each other, kind of thing. As a result, he says, referring to Combs, there was someone on the sidelines, jealous. Who is that? Diddy. The friendship would be short-lived. After Tupac was ambushed and shot 5 times in the lobby of Quad Studios in Times Square in 1994, he blamed Diddy and the Bad Boy crew for setting him up.
We are living in a war zone,
Which Diddy has always denied. From there, everything got blown out of proportion, Bunn says. That's that photographer. At that point, Bad Boy Records executives started encouraging Biggie to write about certain things in his songs. The executives of Bad Boy started encouraging Biggie to write certain songs, despite him not actually feeling so beefy. He wasn't trying to really have this beef. He was probably trying to write about his mom or something. With tensions frothing, Diddy released Wallace's single Who Shot Ya in 1995.
This industry, I turn your best friends into your worst enemies.
Who shot ya? Separate the weak from the opsa.
It was widely viewed as a sneering provocation aimed at Tupac. So fighting words is another way to put this, though Biggie was adamant that it wasn't.
This song was made months ago. He probably won't believe me. Maybe nobody will.
Tupac responded with a ferocious hit 'em up, pushing hostilities to their peak. And rap beefs are something that will often be used to push the culture, drive the culture, or just distract from something else they don't want you talking about. Not like us.
Monster on the beat, ho.
Anyway, perhaps seeing a promotional play. Hello. If you don't learn your history, you will repeat it. Yes, you will. Perhaps seeing a promotional play 30 years ago. Diddy stoked the East Coast, West Coast rivalry. The two label heads traded jabs, with Suge Knight from Death Row cast as the intimidating, cigar-chomping, gang-affiliated boss. And Combs was cast as this slick, clean-cut executive wearing mob boss suits from the 20s. When a 25-year-old Tupac was unalived in September 1996 in a drive-by in Las Vegas, Suge Knight immediately pointed the finger at Diddy, who has always denied involvement. Some Bad Boy employees received personal DEATH threats soon after. Brookshire says, I didn't recall reading in the employee manual that dodging bullets was part of my job description. Then they have a little parenthetical here, and it says, last September, so less than a year ago, Compton Crips gang member Dwayne Keefe D. Davis was charged with Tupac's unaliving. His trial is set to begin in November. He has claimed that Diddy had offered him $1 million for a hit on Tupac, and Diddy vehemently denies the claim.
Now, it was this documentary that claimed. Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist asking. Thank you. Because listen, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, yo, did you hire somebody to kill Pac? But no, you do it like a journalist. Yeah, no, I mean, we wouldn't even get into nonsense like that. You know what I'm saying? It's nonsense. Which we never believed, by the way. Yeah, thank you.
So the guy who was charged with Tupac's not convicted. The trial doesn't even start until 6 months from now. The trial will start.
There was the rumor that after Pac got killed, Puffy gave Zip $1 million that was supposed to be handed over, and Zip ended up keeping it.
The Fed said that too.
He said that shit actually happened. Puffy allegedly gave the money,
I heard,
to Zip.
Yes.
And Zip was supposed to give the money to Keefe and them.
Yes.
But he never gave the money to him.
But thank God he never gave him the money, right? Think about it. If he gave the money, Puffy would be in prison now, and Puffy would be locked up.
So the FBI told you that Zip kept that money as well.
They said Zip's a dirty motherfucker. Everybody cross you.
But the guy who's facing charges right now for the unaliving of Tupac, he has said that Diddy offered him $1 million to take Tupac out. And Tupac did get took out, and this guy's charged for it. Okay, so that'll be interesting to keep up with in about 6 months. Anyway, Diddy denies the claim. 6 months after Tupac died in March 1997, Biggie attended a Soul Train Music Award after party in LA when a gunman opened fire on him, killing him. Police consider the homicide an unsolved act of retaliation. Who shot? We don't know. Multiple reports allege that Biggie had been preparing to leave Bad Boy shortly before he died. It didn't help that Diddy had been fighting with his attorneys who were trying to wrest back the rapper's publishing rights. So, at the time that Biggie did pass, he was reportedly about to leave Diddy's record label, Sean P. Diddy Puff Daddy Combs record label. And B.I.G.'s lawyers were trying to negotiate back the songs from Diddy. And Diddy allegedly said the following, quote, I will never give it up until I'm dead and my bones are crushed into powder. He told the lawyers, according to the Big Paycheck, Biggie was absolutely about to leave Puff. I know for a fact because he told me that. Another source added, everybody wanted to leave Puffy. Everybody leaves him. He capitalized on the shock and sorrow after Wallace's death. Brookshire, who had been traveling in the same SUV as Biggie during press events the day before he died, says Diddy denied her request for time off to process her grief. Instead, just 2 weeks after the slaying, she says Diddy ordered her to focus all her efforts on Biggie's upcoming album, Life After Death. Combs demanded that it has to be number one, top 10, top 10, top 10, she recalls. It sold nearly 700,000 copies in the first week. When Rolling Stone approached Bad Boy about a cover opportunity a few months after Biggie's murder, Burroughs claims that he advocated for the late rapper to take the spot. I was telling Sean, let's make it Biggie. You still have a chance for a cover in the future. He's like, no, he's dead. I'm putting out. Oh, okay. So Rolling Stone approached Bad Boy about being on the cover of Rolling Stone, the magazine, a few months after Biggie's. And they were kind of going back and forth, like, should it be Biggie? Should it be Diddy? And Diddy was like, no, I have an album coming out. It should be me on the cover. Well, he did get his cover. And 2 years later, he acknowledged how Biggie's death had been big in business. He said, I think his passing added to the fame. What is Rolling Stone trying to say here? What are they trying to imply here? Diddy said at least 2 million of the nearly 5 million copies of No Way Out sold were due to his death, straight up. So at least 2 million out of the 5 million sold was just exclusively because Biggie had died. And that doesn't necessarily feel good, but that's the reality, Diddy said in an actual interview. Even Death Row's fearsome boss, who's currently serving a 28-year manslaughter sentence, has been labeled a boogeyman of hip-hop. Even he said Combs' behavior was distasteful. When Tupac left, I didn't pick up a microphone. I picked up the pieces. So basically, he was like comparing his actions to Diddy's after their star artist had died. In the late 90s, fans regularly gathered outside the Daddy's House studio in Midtown Manhattan, angling to see a famous face or pass along a mixtape.
Puffy, Fat Bob, Freddy's here.
Headquarters right here, kid.
Here I am, yo, TV Raps. We up in this piece.
Yeah.
This is it, Bad Boy Entertainment.
Bad Boy Entertainment, no doubt.
Cool.
Okay, so in the late 90s, there was people gathered all around outside of the studio. So they were all gathered around. We had built this machine, the hottest hip hop label in the world, and people started to jockey to get next to Puffy. As the new millennium dawned, hip hop entered its bling era, with Diddy and his artists mining the melodies of the 1980s pop songs to guarantee commercial hits. They wore matching shiny suits, spit raps about designer socks and yachts, draped themselves in diamonds, and filled their big budget videos with fawning women and bombastic pyrotechnics. The label was thriving off of Biggie's legacy and bolstered by rising stars Mace, Shine, and Black Rob. Combs won Grammys and was nominated for his work with outside artists Mariah Carey and R. Kelly. He entered the upper echelons of New York society, partying with Revlon billionaire Ron Perlman and Donald Trump. There was a certain narcissism, an attitude of objectifying not just women, but all people, and wanting to be with other men who enjoyed moving people around like chess pieces.
Everywhere, big business. You want to be successful? You want to be like Trump? Gimme. Push. Step. Crush.
Says of Combs, adding that he was the standard bearer for hip hop as capitalism and as a social mobility play. Becoming a dominant force in the industry only seemed to amplify Diddy's bullying behavior. In April 1999, he barged into the office of Interscope Records executive Steve Stout and allegedly turned violent. Diddy was furious that Stout didn't cut him from a crucifixion scene in a Nas music video before sending it to MTV. Oh, I gotta go find a crucifixion scene. He punched me in the face, and then he grabbed the phone and bashed me in the head with it. Stout recounted to the LA Times.
But the main thing that y'all know Steve Stout's for is he's the gentleman that Puffy got mad about the video when he was put on the cross, and how, you go and film something, then I think he said he wanted to talk to his reverend or his preacher or his pastor or something like that. And he told him that won't be a good look for him. Kind of predicted that you're going to have a downfall because of that. Being on that cross, maybe it's coming true in 2024. But Steve Stoutes is the gentleman that got assaulted by Puffy. Maybe John know a little more about it. He might can explain it a little better than I did.
I remember the incident. I don't know to what length he was involved, but I do know that an incident happened with the Nas featuring Diddy song "Hate Me Now," where in the music video they were depicted with crosses and stuff like that. And I guess apparently they had filmed Puffy in that same, with the cross and all that, and he didn't want it in. And when the video premiered on MTV, there were scenes of Puffy with the cross, and apparently he left his office while it was live, premiering on MTV, went to wherever Steve Stout's office was, assaulted him, and then that's how those charges came about.
Diddy privately settled with Stout, reportedly for $500,000, and dodged a 7-year prison sentence by pleading to a reduced charge of harassment. Oh my God. That summer, Diddy released his second album called Forever. The album's critical and commercial failure, it sold less than half of what its predecessor did. It hardly diminished his star power. A few months later, in December, he was arrested after a nightclub shooting in which 3 people were injured. His newest star, Shine, aka Jamal Michael Barrow, was convicted of firing the shot and sentenced to 10 years. Barrow was deported to Belize upon his 2009 release, and Diddy, meanwhile, was charged with weapons possession and attempted bribery after he and then girlfriend J-Lo fled the shooting in a Lincoln Navigator that reportedly ran 11 red lights. Diddy was facing up to 15 years in prison if convicted. Kevin Rogers Francis, a host at Combs' restaurant Justin's, who did marketing work for Diddy's short-lived magazine Notorious, he recalls Diddy scrambling for money, shuttering the magazine, and hitting the restaurant's drawers for cash in what Francis presumed was an effort to cover hefty legal bills. The prosecutor claimed Diddy offered cash to witnesses after some said Diddy was the shooter. Victim Natanya Rubin has been adamant that Diddy fired the bullet that tore through her nose. Diddy's own driver testified that Diddy offered him $50,000, using a $40,000 pinky ring as collateral if he would say he owned the unlicensed GUN found in the SUV. Others have claimed that Diddy paid as much as $1 million to Barrow through an intermediary to buy his silence. But Barrow denies the claim to Rolling Stone, calling it ridiculous misinformation. After a 6-week trial, Diddy was acquitted in March 2001.
I give all glory to God. If it wasn't for God, I wouldn't be able to walk out here to talk to y'all today. I want to thank my mother for being by my side every day, coming to court me every day. I want to just thank God, and I'm just so grateful today. Family. We love you, son. We love you.
With his mounting scandals, tabloid relationship with J-Lo, and the popularity of his clothing line, which launched in 1998.
It's like there's a million of you.
What'd you say?
Just like there's a million of you.
Guys, he's on us. Execute Diddy Dash.
Diddy entered the pop culture stratosphere. It became a point of pride to work for Bad Boy, says former employee Flash Rodriguez. It wasn't just a company, it was a lifestyle. And that's what cults say. It's not just a company, it's a family.
Family.
It's a lifestyle. It's a culture. Cult. But Diddy was difficult to work for. Employees who wanted to stick around had to learn how to speak puffy, Brookshire, and multiple sources say. A demanding boss, Diddy often yelled to get his point across and fired employees on a whim. No one on his team at Bad Boy spoke back to him. Former Daddy's House studio manager Newsom says no one challenged him. Another source recalls Mace, whose real name is Mason Betha, calling Combs behind his back. Betha did not reply to a request for a comment. He was so volatile, says a source who sometimes worked with Bad Boy. He's always on the edge of snapping and being scary. People did whatever he said to stay in his good graces, and Diddy exploited people's desires to be in those environments. After Diddy's acquittal in the nightclub shooting in 2001, he reportedly headed straight to church. He later made a less God-fearing visit to the Peninsula Hotel, where he was throwing a massive bash to celebrate the verdict. It was there that Anna, a freelance graphic designer working with Bad Boy's marketing team, says Diddy approached her and began to massage her shoulders. The woman requested a pseudonym, citing fear of retribution. I'm getting touched on my shoulder, my arms, my back. He's like, oh yeah, you like that? I know you like that. Like really, really gross. Anna recalls sharing her story publicly for the first time. I was like, no, not so much. And I sort of floated my way out of there. She says she avoided Diddy the rest of the night, but weeks later, her boss's girlfriend confided that Diddy allegedly approached the boss that night to solicit her for S. This is PIMP behavior and not in a good way, girl. He went over to her boss and said, This is allegations. I don't know if it's true. I'm just reading an article. A friend confirmed to Rolling Stone that Anna had told her about both the encounter and the proposed arrangement when they began working together a few years later. The boss did not return Rolling Stone's request for an interview, and the girlfriend declined to speak. She said, quote, I felt quite unsettled about this for many years. When people ask me about my days at Bad Boy, it's just overshadowed by his crap. Adding that Diddy treated her as though she existed to accommodate his whims. He often flaunted his S encounters, even if underage artists were around to see. A teenage usher briefly lived at Combs' New York house in the early 90s as a Bad Boy protege. Puff introduced me to a totally different set of and then he says sex specifically. Usher recalled to Rolling Stone in 2004. There was always girls around. You'd open a door and you'd see somebody doing it, or several people in a room having a group relation. You never knew what was going to happen. Casey Sheridan, a member of the teenage girl band Dream,
just a group of teenage California girls who wanted to make it to the top.
First female group ever to have a #1 video on this show, TRL.
Yeah, because you're 15 and you called I Want to Be a Star, and here you are.
And of course, Sean P. Diddy Combs as our mentor.
After auditioning, Combs was so impressed that he signed them on the spot.
You know how we do. Dream.
recalls the group being summoned for a meeting with Combs to a Beverly Hills hotel bungalow when she was 15 and awkwardly eyeing a purse and a pair of high heels by the front door as the group waited. After 20 minutes, a bathrobed Combs emerged from a nearby room. It's like, you can't even keep our innocence. I'm 15 walking into this situation knowing exactly what he was doing next door. Feeding off his fame and power, Diddy appeared to be pushing his most sickening impulses even further. Model Crystal McKinney was photographed during a star-studded Sean John fashion show in February 2003. Hours later, according to her recent lawsuit, Diddy said she was acting too uptight and pressured her to take a hit from a laced joint. She alleges he then forced her to perform an act on him despite her resistance. The night sent her into a tailspin of anxiety and depression that she says resulted in an unaliving attempt. I had a whole future in modeling mapped out that was stolen from me. Being SA'd and having no recourse is so painful. I felt like I was every day because I did not yet have the strength to come forward. I hope that by speaking out, I can help other survivors come forward and seek justice. Not long after, between the spring and fall of 2003, a 17-year-old girl was out one night with friends at a Detroit area lounge when a man in a suit approached and allegedly introduced himself as Diddy's best friend. The man purportedly called Diddy and let the girl speak directly with the producer, who was twice her age. The man, alleged to be former Bad Boy president Harvey Pierre, convinced the girl to board a private jet and take a 2-hour flight to Teterboro, New Jersey, just outside New York City, to meet Diddy in person. Then, she was a high school junior, and she was awestruck by the opportunity, documenting the trip with photos from inside Daddy's house, that's the studio, where she could be seen pretending to record a song, pointing at Diddy's initials on the wall and sitting on Diddy's lap. The photos were included in a lawsuit to corroborate the woman's allegations that she was gang R-worded that night by Pierre Combs and a third unidentified man inside the recording studio. The woman similarly claims that these men plied her with drugs and alcohol until she was nearly unconscious and completely unable to consent. She started to black out, she claims. Diddy led her to a bathroom where he removed her skirt and underwear and continue. Unnamed assailant replaced Diddy and did the thing. Woman alleges Pierre replaced the second man and he came in and did it too. When the men finished, she fell into a fetal position on the floor and was later escorted out of the building and flown back to Michigan. Diddy's lawyer filed a motion to dismiss, calling these accounts a decades-old tale and they are a baseless claim in an effort to extract an undeserved financial recovery. Pierre did not reply to a request for comment, but previously called the accusation fiction and a desperate attempt for financial gain. Well, I mean, I've seen other things called a money grab, and now we have video footage of, it happening. So, who knows? Substances were a consistent part of Diddy's life, Cassie alleged in her lawsuit. He was addicted to prescription painkillers, and she says, like, on information and belief. He was addicted to prescription painkillers and took this frequently. Cassie claims that Diddy had substances all out in the open like candy, and he would supply alcohol, EX, and GB, K, 420, and all of this would be given during FOs. But far from enhancing a party vibe, Cassie and others say these substances only darkened Diddy's mood. Once he got inebriated enough, says one frequent party guest in the early 2000s, he would turn violent and loud. He would take his anger out on people. At several points when Diddy was extremely intoxicated, Cassie alleges, he beat her. An industry source says they once left a party at Diddy's because they felt so uncomfortable watching an aggressive Diddy yell at Cassie throughout the night. You could tell in her eyes that she was scared. I'm like, is this normal? Am I tripping right now? Why is nobody saying anything? Are they scared of him? In a 2015 appearance on The Breakfast Club, Diddy described the deal he offers his girlfriends. Oh, interesting.
I can promise you that if I'm in a relationship with you, like 25% of your time, you're going to feel like, oh man, I hate being here. Oh man, I hate this guy. Oh man, he cheated on me. He lied on me. That's 25%. You know what I'm saying? But then there's 75% of I'm going to make you the happiest woman in the whole wide world. Support your dreams. I'm going to be there to hold you, listen to you, be your best friend. And I promise you'll smile the most. This is what it is. 25%, 75%.
Oh man, this is crazy. I never heard this one yet. If I'm in a relationship with you, 25% of your time, you're going to just feel like, oh man, I hate being here. This guy cheated on me. He lied on me. Diddy explained while sitting next to his teenage son, Christian. But then there's 75% of, I'm gonna make you feel like the happiest woman in the whole wide world. I'm gonna be there to support your dreams. I'm gonna be there to hold you, listen to you. I'm gonna be there to be your best friend. And I promise you, you'll smile the most. I know who I am. This is what it is. Which deal would you choose? But there was one term of the deal that Diddy never disclosed, sources say. The women who signed up for it were not allowed to walk away. Damian Vasquez, a former Bad Boy intern, says after Diddy and J-Lo broke up, Diddy had staffers camp outside MTV's TRL with signs to win her back. Oh my God, this is Scientology gang stalking. I will not be convinced otherwise. Like, this has to have something to do with Scientology. It has to. He hired people to camp outside. Oh my God. He had his own record staffers that should have been mixing and producing and taking out the trash or whatever. They're standing outside TRL to win J-Lo back. Cassie claimed every time she hid, Diddy's network of operatives found her and implored her to return, including a Bad Boy executive who threatened to withhold the release of her music if she didn't. That's that Cruise guy. After Cassie left, Diddy tried to paint a picture of a heartbroken, hurt man. But then this source said, in reality, he's a liar and an abuser. Now, Burroughs believes Diddy's losses at a young age, especially the unaliving of his father, was what took a toll on his relationships. He's fortified now with the money and the power, but abandonment and the act of leaving can bring about vicious results, and the women catch it the worst. Diddy's long-term partner, Kim Porter, who died of lobar pneumonia in 2018, was no exception. Their relationship was tumultuous, according to two sources who claim Diddy physically abused her. I remember Kim used to go through a lot of stuff. Former Bad Boy rapper Mark Curry says, if you live around them, you get to see the toxic relationship. I think every relationship he had that I experienced around him was like that. And Kim Porter always looks so sad. Eyes are just barely hanging open in all these pictures with him. Diddy and Kim Porter first got together in 1994 and dated on and off until 2007. She ended it for good when she learned that Diddy had fathered a secret child while she was pregnant with their twin daughters. There were other infidelities, including Diddy's affair with J-Lo, but Diddy never let Kim Porter truly move on. She told Essence, he still called 50, 60 times a day. It was like my life was not my own. He was very, very intrusive. In 2000, Kim Porter's fledgling courtship with late music executive Shakir Stewart enraged Diddy. When the industry gathered for L.A. Reid's wedding in Italy that summer, Diddy went to Stewart's room after the ceremony and allegedly broke a chair over Stewart's head. Stewart's mother and two of his close friends told the Rolling Stone that. He left him bleeding on a hotel floor in Italy. That's what the mom said. The mom of the victim. He had to have stitches, and then Diddy threatened him, I'm gonna kill you. That's when I said, you need to get out of this business. This man is crazy. I agree. By the mid-2000s, Bad Boy had hemorrhaged several top acts, including Faith Evans, Total, 112, Craig Mack, and Foxy Brown. 2 decades later, nearly all of Combs' artists have left him. Apart from himself, stepson Quincy Brown, and son Christian, only Janelle Monáe is left on the label. A rep from Janelle Monáe did not reply to a request for comment. Machine Gun Kelly's last track released with Bad Boy was a couple months ago, February 2024, but now he has started his own label, Established 19XX, under Interscope. Rolling Stone reached out to dozens of artists who'd been signed to Bad Boy to ask about their experiences with the label, and many declined, with one saying, I don't have anything nice to say when it comes to my time with Bad Boy. It was not a good experience, and one I really don't care to relive. Now, those who did speak to Rolling Stone say they felt their time with the label was squandered through a lack of direction, several years spent at Bad Boy without releasing any music.
How's it dealing with Puff?
There's a lot of ego with Puff.
Sometimes people will just be like quiet since it's their first record. Let me see. Or did you just come in like, Puff, you can't do me like that? Nah. I watch the shows.
Oh, we still bump heads.
Oh, for real? Give us a good story. Just one. Just one story.
I get invited to this GQ party. I go to GQ party. It's like after one of the award shows, something like that. I go to GQ.
Curry, who was affiliated with Bad Boy from 97 to 2006, has been one of the most outspoken detractors, writing about his dealings with Combs in his 2009 book, Dancing with the Devil: How Puff Burned the Bad Boys of Hip Hop. He says Diddy repeatedly promised to produce his solo album, but never gave him a budget. There's different ways you can kill a person, Curry tells Rolling Stone. I've noticed him kill a lot of people's spirits. It is true. That is true. Not everyone felt the same. Singer-songwriter Kalena Harper says one of the highs of her life was joining Diddy's Diddy Dirty Money group in 2009. She was later invited to work with Combs on the Love album. He was even cool as beep she says, adding that artists who blame Diddy for the trajectory of their careers may suffer from disgruntled employee syndrome. Years ago, there were whispers that some bad boy A&R executives would expect favors from female artists in exchange for professional attention. Quote, I would hear about female artists being asked to do stuff with some of the other male executives, recalls one former bad boy staffer. Like, we can make or break your career. What are you going to do about it? Going to HR was useless. If you want your job, you are not going there to complain. On the Call Her Daddy podcast in 2022, Danity Kane's Aubrey O'Day said she was kicked out of the group because she wasn't willing to do certain things. She said not talent-wise, but other areas. She refused to get specific, saying the truth was what you can imagine. There was no Me Too, she added. You signed 1 million NDAs and 1 million contracts that took away your rights. Asked by Rolling Stone to elaborate, O'Day says, the answer to what happens if you don't do what the executive wants? I'm the full-blown effing story of that. Some who left Diddy worried he might try to expel them from the industry altogether. Brooklyn rapper Linus Babs Bunny Wiley of Combs of TV reality show Making the Band says that she was blackballed after leaving the label.
And I'm watching this last night and I'm like, bitch, I would have been scared, where the guy was like, y'all think y'all can leave Bad Boy and go somewhere else? Y'all think people gonna go against Diddy? Y'all think, basically, to me, it sounded like, if y'all do this, y'all gonna be blackballed, basically. What do you remember about that whole conversation? Because it looks like a lot was cut out.
Yeah, it was a lot of that, you know what I'm saying, being said, like, you know, letting it be known, like, you know, if it ain't here, it ain't happening, you know what I'm saying, either get in line or it's done for you. And he was right at that time, because who at that time was gonna go against Puff Daddy? You know what I mean? Who's gonna go against that guy at that time, especially for somebody who's not on his level? You know what I mean? That's just the reality in life. And so, yeah, it is kind of like scary when somebody is throwing that in your face over and over again. Like, it's one thing to say I ain't with you, but it's another thing to say I'm not with you, and I'm gonna make sure nobody else with you.
Bunn, the photographer, claims her gigs instantly dried up after winning a lawsuit against Combs in 2000 for withholding a set of Biggie photos from her. She claims a friend at the Fader magazine told her that Diddy personally called the office and said that if they worked with Bunn, Bad Boy would pull its advertising from the magazine. Talk show host Wendy Williams wrote in her 2004 book that Diddy spent a lot of money and used a lot of his influence to try and crush her. After she posted an alleged photo of Diddy and another man on her website.
Yes, it's very effeminized, but be very clear. There were lots of homosexuals in hip hop back in the 80s too. You know, what's worse? You know, hip hop wearing skirts or hip hop being closeted and having a plethora of kids to prove manhood, that, you know, and denial of something that you shouldn't have to deny, which is your sexuality. We come from a very era of hip hop as well. There was a radio personality once upon a time. Her name was Wendy Williams, and she was practically burned at the stake for talking about such.
I remember getting off the phone, radio personality, TV personality, Wendy Williams was announcing in her super highly rated afternoon show that might have been even syndicated then, that she had big news coming that involved Justin Dior Combs. Perked my ear up. I said, yo, what's going on? We started calling everybody. He was calling me. He got a heads up. He started calling the bosses at Hot 97. The street team was listening. They heard, the executives heard. We instantly all left the office, 19th Street, some in cabs, some in cars, some running all the way down to Hudson Street where Hot 97 was, to get down there just to handle the situation and make sure that that picture was not exposed to the masses and was not delivered through Wendy Williams. In all of that fricka-fracas, if you look back, history would tell you that she was let go from Hot 97 over that and had to go to another city to operate out of. And I think she remembers that in the way she should remember, as something that happened that ran her out of town.
Burned at the stake!
And Diddy has denied that was him in the photo. And music producer Easy Mo Bee claimed in February that after he came to Diddy and challenged Diddy over Diddy giving himself songwriting credit or something on this Easy Mo Bee's label or song or something.
I remember he said, yo, we're gonna do the remix. He had the idea to throw LL, Busta, Rampage on there. I was wondering, like, why? Because I didn't.
This guy said he noticed certain people wouldn't deal with him. He's someone you don't want to make an enemy out of, says one former employee. When people do go against him, that person is ostracized. For some, the effects of being shunned by Diddy were profound. Francesca Sparrow joined Bad Boy Entertainment in 1998, rising through the company to become Diddy's right-hand woman. But Sparrow alleged in an age and disability discrimination lawsuit that Combs illegally fired her in 2010. She claimed Diddy froze her out after she took time to recover from a hip surgery and voluntarily checked into rehab to treat a lapse in her sobriety. She continued to work in the music industry, but opportunities would disappear, a family member says. The alleged blacklisting led to significant health issues, which brought her to her end. She was devastated by the way she was treated and she felt betrayed. She did die 4 years later. As ex-Bad Boy president Burroughs puts it, Diddy never forgets a grudge. If he sees a snag in a sweater, he'll pull it. For Diddy's 50th birthday in 2019, revelers gathered at his 17,000 square foot Holmby Hills home in black tie attire and beaded gowns. Sipping champagne and ice-cold Ciroc, the vodka brand Combs shilled for a share of profits. They admired the breathtaking Kerry James Marshall painting that Combs had recently purchased for $21 million. Guests Beyonce and Jay-Z rubbed shoulders with Dr. Dre, Leonardo DiCaprio, Kobe Bryant, Cardi B, Snoop Dogg, Kim Kardashian, Usher, and Post Malone. This 2019 50th birthday party was a crowning moment for Diddy, a testament to the multifaceted success he worked so hard to achieve. Diddy had conquered fashion, winning Menswear Designer of the Year at the prestigious Council of Fashion Designers of America Awards in 2004, acted on Broadway, become the co-owner of DeLeon Tequila, founded the Revolt TV cable network, purchased the sports beverage company Aqua Hydrate with Mark Wahlberg, and filmed a cameo in Disney's 2014 movie Muppets Most Wanted. Now he's the most wanted Muppet, but anyway.
Being in the Muppet movie is an incredible honor, just growing up watching the Muppets.
He even legally changed his middle name to Love. He should have left Love out of it. With his hard edges seemingly polished away by his gilded life, Diddy appeared untouchable. It was all the perfect cover for his alleged physical and abuse of Cassie. She says in her lawsuit there were multiple witnesses to her alleged mistreatment, but they were too afraid to cross Diddy. She claims both Diddy's head of security and his assistant began to cry when they saw the extent of her injuries. In an open letter published by Rolling Stone, Cassie's friend Tiffany Red wrote that she was present the night Ventura says she was forced to leave her 2015 surprise birthday party for another FO with Diddy. She recalled seeing Cassie backed up against a wall with Diddy cursing her out. She said Cassie returned later that night, apparently sedated, while Diddy screamed at Tiffany Red, "Tell your girl she wants some birthday, bleep. I flew all the way from Miami. She's gonna get this birthday, bleep." Red wrote that she told a visibly angry Diddy to leave Cassie alone. She recalled Diddy ignoring her and driving off with Cassie in a golf cart. So this must be a picture from that night. Diddy's physical abuse extended to Cassie's inner circle as well, according to her lawsuit. She claims one of her friends obtained a settlement after a physical altercation with Diddy in 2018. After Cassie's birthday party in 2015, a severely intoxicated Diddy dangled, allegedly, one of Cassie's friends over a 17th floor balcony. Neither friend responded to a request for comment. One source who worked with Diddy and Cassie says people failed to speak up because Diddy doesn't believe in being told no. And if you get caught up in the wrath of that, it can be very dangerous. In her lawsuit, Cassie says she finally found the strength to leave for good when Diddy allegedly forced his way into her apartment and R-worded her in September 2018, the night she met him for dinner to discuss breaking up. She claims Diddy pulled off her clothing and assaulted her as she repeatedly said no and tried to push him away. A month later, People magazine reported that the relationship was over, citing a source who said Cassie was moving on with a renewed focus on her career. Though Cassie's alleged hell at the hands of Diddy was largely unknown until she filed her complaint, overlapping public claims about Diddy's behavior made minor headlines during their decade together. In 2017, Diddy was sued for SH by personal chef Cindy Rueda in a lawsuit that seemed bizarre at the time, but has gained renewed scrutiny. And that brings to mind those two lawsuits that were out of hand dismissed sua sponte against Jay-Z and Diddy, and then the other one, Jay-Z and the Steens and the Steins. I wonder if they were filed today, would they have been so readily dismissed sua sponte? Maybe, but I just wonder. This woman who had sued Diddy claimed that when she worked for Diddy in 2015 and a part of 2016, he regularly had her serve dishes while he and his guests were engaged in S activity. And this is another allegation that was made about that alleged mule that he has to stand in there. He was allegedly having to stand in there and like just be in the room while Diddy was doing whatever he was doing with women and whoever else, because in case Diddy needed something. But this woman who had sued back in 2017, she claimed Diddy once asked her to prepare a post-coital meal and then greeted her fully naked and asked if she liked his naked body. In one incident in August 2015, allegedly involving Diddy ordering this woman to serve him breakfast in his room and then partaking in certain activities with Gina Huen, I don't know how to say that name. And she said she dropped the food on the table and fled. The lawsuit was forced into arbitration and ended privately. And this woman's lawyer did not reply to the request for comment. The woman who he was allegedly engaged in the relations with, though, reemerged in 2019 with claims that Diddy had beat her.
And then when we got to the hotel, it got even worse. And he took one of my heels and tried to throw it at me, like mushed my face and like really hard and made my nose bleed. Everyone else just kind of just allowed it to happen and just like looked the other way.
In an interview with gossip blogger Tasha K, this woman said that she had started dating Diddy in 2014 and he offered her $50,000 to terminate a you-know-what that year.
Well, I told him, he was like, "You're gonna get it right." I was like, "I don't know yet." And then he offered me $50,000 to get rid of it, but I turned it down because I just loved him and I just
She also said that Diddy had shoved her to the ground and dragged her by the hair in 2018, which we have seen him grab somebody up by the back of the head and pull him. So I totally believe this. In a jealous rage, and he once stomped on her stomach, which again, we've seen him do, and he's admitted that he did that in 2016. So he does stomp on women. He does pull their hair. I've seen it with my own eyes. I believe this. The allegations barely made a ripple, and she went silent after the interview. The Detroit area Jane Doe, who sued Diddy and Pierre in December, tells Rolling Stone that she hopes her lawsuit will hold not just Diddy, but all of those who acted with him, stood silent, and actively covered up his behavior accountable. Lou Taylor, Robin Greenhill, TriStar Sports and Entertainment called me 2 times 2 days ago. In her lawsuit, she said her nightmare was not an isolated incident and pointed to another Jane Doe who sued Pierre on November 21st. That woman alleges Pierre groomed and SA'd her while she was his assistant between 2016 and 2017. Then in early February, we had the Lil Rod lawsuit come out, and it was a 73-page complaint. Girl, I mean, how long is this article I'm reading right now? Is it 73 pages? I had no idea it was going to be this long. I feel like I'm too deep in now, so we're just going to keep going, but claimed that Jones worked, traveled, and often lived with Combs while producing 9 songs for the project. Lil Rod described his experience as a hedonistic hellscape. He claimed to have hundreds of hours of footage and audio capturing Diddy, his staff, and his guests engaged in serious illegal activity, including the use and distribution of all these substances. He claimed at one party in July 2023, Diddy fed him laced liquor until he blacked out and he woke up naked next to a S worker. Lil Rod said that Diddy terrorized him with constant, unsolicited, and unauthorized groping and touching of his privates, and that Diddy kept him compliant by displaying weapons, threatening to eat his face, and according to the lawsuit, informing Jones, Lil Rod, that he was willing to unalive his own mother if he had to get what he wanted. Diddy's lawyer, like everything else, said that that was pure fiction. He is this monster. Nothing has changed, Lil Rod told Rolling Stone shortly before filing his lawsuit. This guy got no soul, and he has no duty to anyone, not even his kids. Diddy's associates, meanwhile, have faced allegations of their own. 25-year-old Brendan Paul, who Lil Rod describes in his lawsuit as Diddy's mule, he was arrested and charged with possession of substances during the raids on Combs' properties. He pleaded not guilty, but later accepted a deal in May, agreeing to complete a drug diversion program, after which his case will be dismissed. The deal was offered because Paul is considered a first-time offender, and the substance amount allegedly found was not of a ficking level. But in early April, yacht steward Grace O'Markey sued Diddy and his 26-year-old son, Christian, alleging that Christian, the son, the one who looks just like Diddy, Diddy Jr., gave substances and attacked Grace on board a luxury vessel rented for a 2022 vacation in St. Martin. While filming a since-scrapped family reality show, for Hulu. According to NBC News, Omarky can be heard in an audio recording asking Christian to stop touching her legs. She claims Christian later tried to force her to perform a certain act, allegations he denies through his father's lawyer. Christian's lawyer, Aaron Dyer, did not reply to a request for comment of the allegation, but he had previously claimed that these were manufactured lies and irrelevant facts. So is this the end? On May 4th, Diddy posted a video of himself standing by an ocean, staring down a tropical monsoon with his arms outstretched as the recorded voice of his spiritual advisor, T.D. Jakes, booms. Not hysterical, not frantic, not anxious, not fretful, but steady in the storm.
Not hysterical, not frantic, not anxious, not fretful, but steady in the storm. Looks bad, looks tough, but remain steady in the storm.
While Diddy gathers support where he can, the new allegations have reshaped his world. After stepping down from Revolt, he reportedly sold his shares in March. The Harlem charter school he co-founded reportedly cut ties and scrubbed his name from the website. In April, premium liquor giant Diageo revealed it paid approximately $200 million to buy the outstanding 50% share of their tequila brand from Diddy, fully dissolving their partnership. In a 2023 court filing, this liquor brand had said that Diddy had amassed nearly $1 billion from their 15-year relationship. And the wave of lawsuits reignited industry beef with Diddy's longtime rival 50 Cent, who's now making a documentary about his downfall. Diddy is preparing for a fight, for his reputation, his legacy, and in some sense, his life. Federal officials declined to say much after the March raids, but a source confirmed to Rolling Stone that investigators in the Southern District of New York interviewed potential witnesses as part of an ST and racketeering probe. Agents may also examine Diddy's alleged ties to the infamous Black Mafia family cartel after the Detroit Jane Doe alleged in her suit that the group is rumored to have seeded Bad Boy. Oh, we got to read that lawsuit, y'all. Oh, that's insane. ST is certainly a potential component of a pattern of racketeering, or it could be charged on its own. A former federal prosecutor, Elizabeth Geddes, a member of the team that successfully prosecuted R. Kelly in New York, tells Rolling Stone. The indictments of R. Kelly, Epstein, Maxwell, high-profile individuals who long evaded real accountability by law enforcement, they offer prosecutors a playbook for a possible prosecution of Sean P. Diddy Puff Daddy Combs. Combs is known to sport a gold medallion depicting Lazarus, the biblical figure raised from the dead. And why not? He survived the deadly CCNY tragedy that killed his top artist and the Club New York criminal trial, and has prospered. He named an album No Way Out, but he's always managed to find one. But this time may be different. As more accusers and associates emerge with hellish accounts of their time with Diddy, as more voices hint that there are darker stories to still be uncovered, he stands exposed in a much harsher light. To some, his claim that his brutal 2016 attack on Cassie represented a rock bottom from which he has since recovered, it doesn't ring true to some people. One source who knew the former couple says that Diddy's rage was always on the verge of creeping out. Rock bottom must be his personality, they say. I've never not seen this person. Misa Hilton, the mother of Diddy's first son, Justin, had been silent in the wake of Cassie's lawsuit. But after the video broke, she responded by saying, I know exactly how she feels, and through my empathy, it has triggered my own trauma. It's a long overdue reckoning, says Anna, whose encounter with Combs at the Peninsula Hotel still haunts her. People have been sitting with their experiences for years because you don't know what to do with it. Gardner's friend wrote in her recent affidavit that she wishes that she had spoken up then and raised hell earlier. She watched her friend grapple with the aftermath. This experience completely changed her as a person, she wrote. Dickerson Neal, too, says that she was forever changed by that single night. One date with Sean Combs led to the trauma and pain of SA and an ocean's depth of shame, she tells Rolling Stone. Learning that Diddy allegedly distributed an explicit video of her was devastating, and she suffered debilitating self-doubt and a lifetime of inner turmoil. Those who were watching decades ago have long suspected Diddy's legacy would end in disgrace. None of this was really a surprise for me, says one of the Howard alums who had knowledge of Combs' attack on the classmate. Remember when he beat her with a belt 2 hours ago when we read that? You're already an abuser in college. You were already feeling you had to have certain power over people. Another says Combs must now face accountability. It's time. In an Instagram post in late May, Ventura, that's Cassie, expressed gratitude for all the love and support she's received. With a lot of hard work, I am better today. She added, echoing the experience of many of Diddy's accusers, I will always be recovering from my past. Well, this has been way longer than I thought it was going to be, so I pretty much said everything I needed to say. That's all I really had on this one. In the meantime, facts ain't defamation. Love you, mean it, K-bye.
Welcome into my world. You're playing my game. Thought that you could come up and they're fitting off of my knee. Talking out the side of your neck like you're insane. Cortisol levels to the roof. Inflame. Kids these days so shameless. Selling out real friends for a paycheck. Mama didn't teach them no home training. Wanna be me so bad, but they failing. Step to the plate though. I'll take a challenger. I ain't scared of no low life scavenger. I should warn you though, if you haven't heard, I ain't no Colleen ukulele ballager. Shots been fired. Wanna tell that? Say it to my face though. Now behind my back won't be long till you share it in a group chat. And when I call you up, you gonna backtrack. And you should've kept my name out your mouth.